Hello, in today's video we'll be going over validation in Visual DB. So let's get right into it. The first thing that you're going to do is go over to your form section and open up your form. If you want to know how to make a form like this, we have other videos available on the website that you can check out. Let's open up a new form, and let's say you're trying to add a form to your database. So one thing we'll notice here is this red star here. And basically what your employee number is a primary key. Basically, it doesn't make sense to make a form that you'll give to your database if it doesn't have an employee number, because your primary key is your defining thing. If we try to submit this, it'll say there are validation errors. If we put in a number here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and submit this, then the record will be created. But what if we wanted to add other requirements to our form other than just the primary key? So let's say, for example, let's open up our settings in our design mode, and let's say we wanted to add requirements to our salary. What we can do is we can go down to the bottom right and you'll see validation settings. We can open that up and we can choose a required field, or we can do a minimum value or a maximum value. In this case, we're going to choose a minimum value. And let's say the minimum value has to be 0 because we don't want a negative salary, right? And what we can put here is that salary cannot be negative. So then we'll put that and then we'll press OK. And if we go back and we type in -5 and we press OK, then our salary cannot be negative. Once we type in something like 2 or 3, these are positive numbers, so we'll be okay. For other field types, we also have different validation options. So for example, our job field here, unlike our salary, is a text field. Basically, our salary stores a number and job stores text, right? So if we go to add validation settings here, if we click on required field, we see we have a lot more options here. So we have a minimum length and a maximum length, allowed characters, disallowed characters, regular expression, and then the lower ones are just some convenient different things that we might want to have as a validation. So having the correct form of like a social security number, a phone number, an email address, a zip code, a credit card number, or a URL. Those are all things that we can do with text. Another thing that we can add if we get out of this and we click on our date of birth, for example, if we add a validation setting here, we can check all of the validations that we can do. So we can do no earlier than, no later than, today or later, tomorrow or later, today or earlier, yesterday or earlier, and date of birth. So with all of these, we can basically check for dates. So for example, if your employees need to be over the age of 18, you can check that by using one of these validation settings. Or if somebody can't be older than a certain age, or if they're between an age range, these are very useful settings for that. Another thing that we can do is we can also add a maximum value. So we can also do that. Boom, maximum value, and then let's make it like a really large number. And we'll say salary too large, and then we'll press OK, and then we'll X out, and we'll put in a very large number, and we'll say salary too large, just in case, just to make sure people don't put in inaccurate salaries, because there'll never be a salary that's large or whatever you specify. Another thing that we can do is, beyond having requirements for just one field in our form, we can relate two different fields together and make a validation setting out of both of them. So if we press settings, design mode, and remember not to click a field, click out of it, and we'll have this option, and we're going to add a submit rule. Now, if we press add rule, we have a bunch of options here. Let's say, for example, you wanted to limit the amount of salary that, for example, an intern could make. How we would do this is we would use our conditional here. So first, we would select for our job, because that's where we indicate whether someone's the president, an intern, just a regular employee, right? And we're going to say equal to intern, right? And then our next thing, we're going to add a new condition, and then we're going to say this is salary, right? And our salary not equal to if it's greater than, and let's say 1,000, right? So how we read this is that if all of the following apply, so if our job is equal to intern and our salary is greater than 1,000, then our submission will be rejected. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes people will view it the other way, where it has to require these things to be accepted, but no. If these conditions are satisfied, then the submission is rejected. So just keep that in mind. So basically, we'll have an error message and we'll say intern salary is too high. And then we'll put intern salary limit, like that, right? So we're going to press OK. And now, if we exit out of design mode, we open up our job and we press intern. And let's say we put a salary of 1,000. This will work. But once we go over that limit and we press submit, our intern salary is now too high. So that's how we would limit stuff, relating two different fields to each other, which can be very useful. That was validation in Visual DB. Thank you for listening.